You can have the glass of wine or two. You can say yes to the dessert, to the birthday cake, to the fries, to the burger when you want to go out to eat, and still achieve the results that you desire. And the problem that I've realized through even things I've said in the past, and I would say in the last 3 years, I've really shifted away from saying this, but there was a moment in time on Instagram, and I was definitely a part of this, of being like, we all want balance, we all want balance, we all want balance.
Let's link up with Krista on the FYX. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
What's going on, FYX listeners? Welcome back to our latest episode of the FYX podcast, episode 199. I will save all of the reflections and learnings and moments for next week's episode, although that is very much on my mind in this moment of holy shit, we are hitting episode 200. And wow, this is the longest, most consistent platform that I've shown up on. And yes, I've been on Instagram longer than I've been podcasting, but there's just something about the intimacy of having these episodes where I get to really just say what's on my mind, talk to you guys, connect with other amazing people, and have your ear and have your attention for 30 minutes, an hour, sometimes even longer than that. So excited to record that one, but just want to preface this episode by saying a lot of the wheels are turning as I think about what I learned at episode 100 and what I learned at episode 150 and what I even learned about myself at episode 22. And it's just been a really cool journey that every single week as we continue to publish a new episode, it still does actually feel like we're just getting started, because this is what's on my heart and on my mind and impacting me, our clients inside of the Fitness FYX, our new clients inside of the Clarity Collective on a daily basis, and being able to showcase that and just have this audio diary of what's happening is something that I'm excited to be able to look back on for so many years to come. Now, that said, in thinking about this week's episode, if you've listened to the last couple, we've honestly been on a bit of a solo episode kick, and I always go into the beginning of the year thinking okay, twice a month, I'm going to have 2 solo episodes, and then twice a month I'll have a guest. And honestly, it just doesn't always shake out that way, because guest schedules and coordinating, and then my own schedule, transparently, it's just a lot easier a lot of weeks to just turn on my mic and talk about what's happening. And I also feel like you guys kind of show me this through the numbers in terms of who tunes into which episodes, even whether they're promoted on Instagram or whether I just continue to release them. You guys seem to like these based on the number of downloads. So month of April has been a whole lot of me and you, and we're definitely going to keep that going for the next several weeks, because episode 200 is going to be me, you, and all the lessons. That said, this week, I've been thinking a whole lot about this idea of balance and extremities. I did an episode back in January. I believe it was episode 186. I looked it up right before we hit record. Yes, episode 186. It was a solo. It was me giving my hot takes in January on the fitness industry and the whole idea of not starting over, and Equinox's January campaign of not accepting memberships in the month of January. And in that episode, I touched on this concept, but I really feel like it deserves its own 20-minute spiel, because there is so much we can say about this. And I also feel it deserves its own episode, because everything I'm about to say, I want you as a listener to know that this is a symptom of social media. It's not you. It's not you believing the wrong thing. It's not you being confused. It's a symptom of the way these platforms work in getting us all to believe in extremes. And hopefully in listening to the rest of this, you can walk away from this conversation with more discernment, more trust in yourself, more trust in your gut, and also know that I am always available to be a trusted resource who is willing to contradict herself as information changes. Now, I wrote an email last week, and if you're on our email list for the Fitness FYX, I started this challenge for myself in January to send daily emails Monday through Friday for the FYX audience, just as a way to hone my craft as a writer, but also share more information. Like I just said about the podcast, this is a long form piece of content. email is another version of written long form that gives me more space, and I get to occupy more of your attention in your inbox than I would say on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, etc. So I wrote this email last Monday. Well, I guess it'll be 2 Mondays ago by the time this comes out, but I was joking with a few people who DM'd me because I don't often get a ton of responses back to my emails unless I said something that made somebody laugh or really stood out or really moved them in some sort of way, to where someone will DM me and be like, hey, your email was really fun today. And this email in particular had like 4 or 5 comments within a few hours of me sending it out, whether it was clients messaging me in our coaching app or people DMing me on Instagram, and a few responses to the email, which was really funny because I made the subject line about martinis. And so for all of you listening out there, I know now, based on the anecdotal information that I got back from that email, a lot of you really seem to be concerned about this ability to still drink alcohol and enjoy your social life and be a healthy person, lose weight, prioritize building muscle, prioritize losing body fat, have a good relationship with food, everything that we promise inside of the Fitness Fix. And essentially this email I put the word martinis in the subject line because yes, I wanted you to open it. And there's a marketing component to this that I'm not above it. I want you guys to read my information and be able to take it in and actually apply it to your life. And I essentially was trying to make the point in this email that I want to expand on here on the podcast and give more personal context to, because I can speak through it, that you can drink the martini. In my case, my preference is an espresso martini. You can have the glass of wine or 2. You can say yes to the dessert, to the birthday cake, to the fries, to the burger when you want to go out to eat, and still achieve the results that you desire. And the problem that I've realized through even things I've said in the past, and I would say in the last 3 years, I've really shifted away from saying this, but there was a moment in time on Instagram, and I was definitely a part of this, of being like, we all want balance. We all want balance. We all want balance. And in the last 2 to 3 years, I've kind of realized well, what does that actually mean? And so this email, in reflecting on my own behavior on the weekends and in reflecting on behaviors that our clients inside of the Fitness Fix mirror back to me, actually made me realize that it has nothing to do with balance. And I knew that conceptually, I've been saying this, but I didn't have a replacement word for it. And I finally do. So here it is. It's about the domino effect. So let's unpack that. On a typical Friday, Saturday, maybe even into Sunday type of weekend, what I see from most people who are struggling, and I have been this person, so I say this with zero judgment, to lose body fat and still live the life they want to lead, is this very much all or nothing mindset. And I really feel that the all or nothing mindset has continued to just be beaten into because of the way the social media algorithms work, that the information that gets the most clicks, the most likes, the most comments, the most shares, and therefore you then get the most exposure to, is always speaking in extremes. Now, let me give you some examples. Right before I hit record on this episode, I was DMing with my very close friend who happens to be a nurse, and she is also a former Fitness Fix client. So she understands our philosophy, believes the way we do towards nutrition and food. And she sent me a story from another fitness professional who was essentially talking about the fact that she didn't want to take any sort of Advil, Motrin, any kind of anti-inflammatory medicine, because she was very concerned about what that would do to her gut health, despite the fact that she injured herself in some way. I don't know the full specifics, but she was in a lot of pain. Now, shout out to my very good friend, Sam, who is an amazing physical therapist and has really shaped my understanding of all of this. There is a time and a place for Advil, but it's meant to be done at a very specific time, at the start of the onset of pain and injury. And I'm not going to pretend to talk to the exact specifics of that. If you want to hear somebody who knows way more of those insights than me, go follow her at Dr. Sam Moves, or follow her business page, which is called Unleash Athletics. She has an amazing team that just really knows their shit, and who I always defer to when it comes to pain management, when it comes to injury. And I know that she will back me up when I say, again, there is a time and a place for something like an anti-inflammatory, because guess what? You want to bring blood flow to the area. That is probably a misconception. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I hurt myself, I immediately need to rest. Actually moving your body and trying to circulate that blood flow can help reduce inflammation. But that's not to say that there's no time and place for something like a medicine to intervene and help with that process and kind of bring things down. So this person who's a holistic health coach, some kind of nutrition coach, I don't know her exact certifications, but she's on her stories explaining that she is really trying to just like power through the pain because she does way too many things to maintain really solid gut health that God forbid she takes some sort of NSAID because those things tend to hurt the kidneys and hurt the liver. Here's the problem. She's right and she's wrong at the same time. And here's the reason why she's right. She's right because with repeated emphasis on the word repeated, frequent use of something to the point of, dare I say, abuse of a medicine like an Advil or anything in that general category of an anti-inflammatory, you can cause long-term damage to your gut health. But here's where I think she's wrong. Every other piece of content she makes is talking about all of the top-notch protocols that she incorporates in her day-to-day routine that, guess what? If she stepped outside the lines just a little bit and decided that she wanted to get herself out of pain, that she wanted to take some sort of Advil or Motrin or something of the sort, it's not going to ruin her gut health. And that's the extremes talking. That's the whole where I think we have to not just take some responsibility as creators, but also take responsibility as consumers of content to recognize that if you're out here and you feel confused, or you feel, like I said in starting this off by talking about my email, that you're living in this place of extremes, of polarities, I feel that the narrative on social has really contributed to this and is then piling onto these feelings of you as the consumer being confused about what the best way is to approach your health. Because here's the thing we all have to remember, you guys. If 90% of your routine, again, in this example of this nutrition coach, this fitness professional, has really, really high quality protocols in place, it's not going to completely unravel her if she then chooses to take some sort of medicine that sure can have a slight impact. And I'm saying slight for her because objectively speaking, her routine is so solid. This is silly. And the reason why I think it's especially silly is because there's someone out there who is now all of a sudden going to start freaking out because they follow her and start thinking, oh yeah, the reason why I'm having trouble losing weight, because this is how people start connecting dots, is because if I'm in pain and I've always for the last 10 plus years always reached for Advil, that must be the reason that I can't lose weight. Wait a second. Let's back up like 15 steps. Did we talk about your sleep? Did we talk about what food choices you're making in your diet? Did we talk about your protein consumption and where it's coming from? Did we talk about your stress management? Did we talk about your caloric intake? Are you in a deficit? Are you in a surplus? Are you in a deficit for long enough to actually see body fat come off of your body? Are you strength training consistently? There's so many other factors. And while I'm not saying that this creator doesn't address those other factors, if we look at the content that she's putting on her stories with just the context of this example, she's trying to educate from a place of personal experience of telling the story of what's going on with her in her, current like weekend situation and how she's feeling. But there should be more disclaimers on what she's saying. And yet she's speaking in absolutes. And I'm not trying to throw this creator under the bus. It's just the exact example that I want to walk you through to make this very tangible and easy to follow, because I see this with pretty much every other damn post scrolling on social media. And that's part of the reason why I started reflecting on this myself and put this in an email out to our email list for the Fitness Fix, because so many people want to be so quick to be like, well, if you drink, then you can't see this result. If you don't strength train, then you are missing out on this result over here. And that's just not true. But we need to either all come together and collectively agree that in order for us to help people lead this so-called balanced life, we have to start talking about content that focuses on the real life shit, that focuses on the balance. And that was my attempt in this email. So in this email, I walk you through my weekend 2 weekends ago, by the time this episode airs, where Friday night I went out to grab a drink with my friend. And this is where the balance conversation comes into the mix. I knew on Thursday, we had planned this a few days before. So I knew on Thursday that I needed to think about what my day looked like on Friday. Did I have food in my fridge that I wanted to eat? Was I planning on going to the grocery store? And know that because I was choosing to have drinks out with her, I was making the conscious decision to have my dinner at home. And it's that choice that then becomes a domino effect for how the rest of my weekend looks, even down to how many drinks I choose to have. Let me explain. Let's say I went out on Friday night and I'm thinking in my head, okay, what does the rest of my weekend look like? I definitely want to get in a workout at some point. I have plans to cold plunge because that's been a really good anti-inflammatory. No irony there, but it's really the truth. Part of my routine recently with supporting my hormones and supporting some inflammation that I've been dealing with in my body. But no, I'm not lying to you and telling you that I'm not going to drink. Right? Because that's where this gets so fuzzy and gets like so hypocritical, because the person who could be freaking out about whether they're taking Advil may also be the person that 4 weekends from now is going out and having like 4 drinks for somebody's birthday because they want to celebrate and have a good time. You should be allowed to be both people. But the only way that should really be allowed is if you're willing to stop speaking in these absolutes and start either saying, hey, nope, this is how I live my life. And I live my life in this capacity in every area, not just when it's convenient for me and my content. Or we need to start shining a light on 2 things being able to be true at the same time. So continuing through my thought process, I knew I wanted to eat my dinner at home. I knew I was going to go out with my friend. And I also knew in going out with her and thinking about what else I wanted to do the rest of the weekend, I didn't need to go out with her and have like 3 to 4 drinks in that night. We hadn't caught up in a little while. We'd both been really busy. We both run our own businesses. We've been on different schedules. And we just wanted to take the time to just like chat, talk about what else is going on in our personal lives. We talked a little bit of business too. That didn't require me having like 4 drinks to go ahead and have a good time. And that's also my personal preference. I will always be the coach that says, hey, yes, I like to enjoy my drinks, but are there times when I have more than that? Sure. It's very rare and it's not often, but that's because of the relationship that I choose to have with meals out and alcohol and insert whatever. It also comes down to me asking myself, like, what am I doing this for? Is it for somebody's birthday? Is this me kind of like looking for a way to manage stress? And hint, that is not a way to manage stress. If you feel like you need to have this robust social life after a long week at work, and robust means having a lot of drinks, then we need to have a conversation about what fills your cup, like truly, and can we shift what fills your cup to thinking about, hey, maybe like this robust social life just means actually being out and being present and hanging around and spending time with my friends around other people and good energy. That's how I choose to look at it. But again, that doesn't mean that I'm like, nope, I'm never having a drink at all. Nuh-uh. I do spread them out. I talked about this in the last 2 episodes. When I was away traveling in Florida, I had more drinks in that time frame that I had in like probably a 6-month time frame, and I had a great time. But I've also had a great time every other time since in the prior, like these past 6 months that I've gone out too. It's just knowing when to pick and choose. And that's the question that people want certainty around. Like, well, how do I pick? How do I choose? And here's why I connected back to this domino effect, because I knew on Friday night that if I woke up on Saturday having had multiple drinks, then I wouldn't get up and go to the workout class I had booked. I would feel like I needed to go just for the sake of not missing it, and then actually doing more harm than good on my body because I'm having trouble recovering. I knew that I wanted to get up and record a podcast episode on either Saturday or Sunday. I knew that I wanted to be really sharp for sitting down and doing some deep creative work, not just for the Fitness Fix, but for my marketing clients, for people whose social media accounts were managing and growing and helping them really grow their brands. Like, there's a lot hanging in the balance of what you choose to do on a Friday night. And by you, I am talking about myself here, but that also doesn't have to mean that I'm not having a good time. And I'm just really sick of all of these people making us believe, because of what works best for the algorithm, that you have to live either over here or all the way over here. For my people that are listening to the audio, I literally just put both my hands out and had one hand all the way on one side of the camera and my other hand on a complete opposite side, like off the screen. It's annoying because nobody wants to live their life that way. And I cannot stress enough that nobody inside of the Fitness Fix lives their life that way. I just had a client who graduated from our program last week. And the one thing she said to me She's worked with multiple coaches, and she told me the best experience that she got out of our program was just how much she learned about food and the accessibility that she had to our coaching staff to be able to ask questions and help navigate situations that used to stress her out, because now she has a blueprint for the rest of her life. Whereas in the past, in working with other coaches, all she got was like, hey, do this thing, without the attachment of, here's why I'm suggesting that you do this thing. And let's take it one step further. The reason why we suggest that you choose to do something also has a lot to do with the story you tell yourself, with the personal connection you have to that decision. Because again, hear me when I say the way that I think about alcohol and how it shows up in my life has everything to do with the bigger picture of my goals, but also how I want to feel. And that is very much a personal preference. Our number one job as coaches, as what I believe our coaching staff is meant to do inside of the Fitness Fix, and Coach Alyssa and I just also had this conversation last week, is challenge you as a client of ours to potentially disrupt patterns that are not serving you. And let's say that pattern is you consistently on Fridays and Saturdays feeling that you're going to, have a couple drinks, and maybe you don't even equate it in your mind to blowing off steam, but that's what it is coming from, because we notice the way you talk about it every single week when you check in with us come Sunday, Monday. We see you saying like, yeah, my stress levels were through the roof Monday through Thursday. And then, Friday, Saturday looked like 5 to 6 drinks. As a coaching staff, our next question isn't why did you have the 5 to 6 drinks? It's, hey, have you considered that there could be a correlation here to the way your weeks look and your relationship with stress, and you believing that the way to decompress is to insert alcohol, to insert like some aspect of something that you're doing on the weekend that objectively, at 30, 35, 45, 60, 70, 27 years old, no matter how old our clients are, is not exactly going to serve you. And then from there, can we come up with a game plan to talk about, okay, because we're not encouraging you to live into this extreme mode of like, well, if it's not serving you, you're never doing it again. Come up with a game plan to where we decide how frequently is this going to happen? Because the frequency and the recurrence of you doing something that isn't serving you, the more you do it, the bigger negative impact it's going to have. The less you do it, sure, that can mean that it won't have an impact, right? Because you're not doing it anymore. But that could also backfire on you and living in this other extreme of nothing, because then the minute you're presented with the opportunity to do it, 9 times out of 10, you go run and do it. And then it turns into a binge. It turns into something excessive. And now come Monday, come the following day, whenever this happens to you, you're kicking yourself for having made that choice. So we need to find that nice sweet spot right in the middle. And that is where I feel the domino effect is. And instead of thinking about it as balance, like I really don't think you can have balance with anything you want to be really good at, but you can understand this domino effect that like, if you choose to do something and then crank the dial down or turn that lever up, like maybe you're having the 1 drink instead of having the 3 drinks, that could allow you to make better decisions the next day. Because the person who has the 4+ drinks, the 5+ drinks, whatever, is also typically the person who then doesn't have as much self-control when it comes to getting home and wanting to have that pizza, or when it comes to the next morning when you're feeling like you're dragging and you're like, hey, nothing but a bacon, egg, and cheese sounds really good right now. So if you had the 1 drink, you're not putting yourself in a position where you have to say no to something that maybe you do want to do, but you're also putting yourself in the best position possible to influence a really solid day the next day. The domino effect of saying, hey, 1 drink today means tomorrow I'll still make it to my workout class and have a really good workout. 1 drink today also means that 2 weekends from now, if it's my best friend's birthday and we want to go out and have a good time, I'm going to feel good about making that choice, because the 2 weeks prior, I made a different choice of only having the 1 drink because it was just another Friday night with my friend. And not every Friday night has to be the most like blowout special night all the time. I could keep like running through so many different examples, like I did with the gut health conversation, like I'm doing with the socializing conversation. But I think the social piece is like the really sticky one for most people, because it's probably the number one comment that gets made to me on Instagram. Like when people are DMing me and when I ask clients, like, why choose the Fitness Fix? It's because our clients see our coaching staff actually living our lives and still feeling really great, still maintaining a good relationship with food, but also pursuing like the physical results, the aesthetic results that no matter how you slice it, we all want. We want to see the scale go down. We want to see our clothes fit better. And yeah, that the emphasis shouldn't necessarily be on that, only because I think those desires can be fleeting relative to building your confidence, building a better quality relationship with food, thinking about how you actually manage stress. The only reason that we operate in this order of saying, hey, let's focus on you taking care of you, and then understand that the byproduct will be fat loss, better fitting clothes, more confidence, all those things, is simply because it attaches you to a much stronger why, like I talked about in the last 2 episodes. And if we can attach to that stronger why, we're going to keep going. And the recipe for success here is consistency. So if you have no attachment to something that's going to encourage you to keep going, the aesthetics and that aspect of the relationship is really surface level for a reason. And it's surface level in that the minute you have the stressful week, the minute something doesn't go well at work, the minute you get in a fight with your friend, your partner, somebody in your family, it's going to be that much easier for you to pull on food or for you to make a choice to skip a workout or have that extra drink, versus when you're tied to this idea of what is the best next step that I can take right now that's going to help me love myself. When you can think about it that way and answer that question, you're unstoppable in your pursuit of consistency. Now, going back to this whole social media piece, what can we do to change this? I don't think we have the power to like change the Instagram algorithm or TikTok or any of these things anytime soon. But what I do think is that you owe it to yourself to be really careful, one, about who you follow, but two, of using this lens, and this is the takeaway that I want everyone listening to have from this, of, is what this person's saying inherently true all the time? Or can I think of examples where I could justify the opposite of what they're saying? Can I think of examples in my own life where I can contradict with what this person is saying? And can I also view things with a lens of like, maybe there's certain aspects of this person's life that are different than mine. For example, this is such a trope on social, and it's always one that when I talk about it, it does get a lot of attention because it's really just true. My mom's out there. If you have 2, 3 small children and you're feeling like you're in this season of life where you're lucky if you get to the gym at least 6 times over the course of like a 3-week period, do not compare yourself to the 27-year-old who is single and lives alone. And literally her responsibility to herself is to meal prep, spend time with her friends, and, you know, choose when she wants to go out to eat and when she wants to go to the gym. Like, that's not apples to apples. So we need to remember that where we're getting our advice from, the person doesn't have to look exactly like you in terms of their life. I think I am very much a testament to that. So many of the clients we have inside of the Fitness Fix are in different stages of life, whether they're in stages of life ahead of us or they're at different stages in their career, family, relationships, whatever. And we still have a lot of capacity to coach you for the sole reason that we've, one, lived lots of different things. I shouldn't have said sole reason, for 2 reasons. That we've experienced a lot of different phases. I've been the person who has the corporate desk job, so I get that. I've been the person and continue to be the person who has a very erratic schedule with entrepreneurship. I've been the person who has control over his schedule. I've been the person who doesn't have control over his schedule. I've been the person who's had uncertainty in relationships, who felt like she had certainty in relationship, who's made big decisions in their life. And those themes can allow us to have an appreciation for the person who maybe their day-to-day looks different than ours in this exact present moment, because it's all resting on this foundation that the Fitness Fix client, she's a busy person. She's not slowing down anytime soon. And for as much as we may ask you to do that and ask you to take pause where you can, we're not the coaches to tell you, hey, we need you to set these really high expectations for how much you manage your stress and how many variables you control because we said so, because that's just not real life. And that's so ridiculous. And I feel like recently, the more I consume certain people's content on social media, it's making me feel like people are not as understanding and empathetic And I don't think that should be the case. I think it should be a matter of us all wanting to hold ourselves to the highest standard. And that's the approach that we take inside of the Fitness Fix, that we see our moms who have careers, who are managing their households. We see the women in our lives who have big careers and maybe do not have children, are not at the phase yet where they have children. They're single, they're married, they're divorced, doesn't matter what. But we see you as a high achieving woman who really values how successful she is in so many areas of her life. But where we want to call you out and hold you to this higher standard is to point out to you, you have all these standards for yourself in every other area, in work, in relationship. But then when it comes to you, when it comes to your health and fitness, which really is just representative of your relationship between you and you, we're just asking you to hold yourself to that higher standard. And that higher standard should not have to look like all or nothing mindsets. Because once again, if you are the woman out there who is doing it all, we want to show you how to do it better. And doing it better includes still doing everything that you enjoy and doing everything that you love. And I am just at a point where I'd rather make people uncomfortable in our content by choosing to stick right in the middle of things and choosing to say that two things can be true at the same time, and also be okay with that not getting like a ton of play on social media, because I know that that's the thought process and the stance and the take that gets our clients the results that we get them day in and day out. And it can be frustrating as a business owner, as a content creator, to see that the person who is going on and on about like how Pilates can do all these things to get you those perfectly toned arms, it can be frustrating because there's so much more nuance to that. But instead of getting frustrated by it, at least the way I look at it, as the people who are meant to find our content and the people who are meant to resonate with the Fitness Fix will find us if we continue to hold true all of the things that we as coaches actually practice in our day-to-day life, rather than trying to placate to whatever we think is going to get the most eyeballs on social media, because that really doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is that we're here to help the people who we know we can help based on our own experiences. Like that's all we have to go off of. And yes, the science and the education, but really the application piece of it, the only thing we're going off of here is our own experience and how we've applied these things. And then of course our clients and their takeaways and hearing from them and talking about their wins, talking about their struggles. So I'd rather be at a place where we may sound like we're saying two different things at the same time on social, because that's what life looks like. Life itself is a big old gray area. If it could be black and white, nobody would even have a fat loss problem in the first place. Everyone would have such a good relationship with food. Nobody would feel like they were leaning on food to manage stress. No one would feel like they were ever falling off of their routines. Everyone would just get shit done and go to the gym and be basically perfect all the time. But that's just not reality. So if you want to keep living in the gray, keep hanging out with us, keep coming back to these podcast episodes every single week, and shoot me a DM. I want to know your thoughts on this one. I had a really good conversation with my friend that sparked like even more specific anecdotes at the beginning of this, but I feel like it's just something that I have my own opinions as a coach. And I think it's important to understand where you, the listener out there, who is a consumer of all of this information, who is somebody who is trying to lead a healthier lifestyle and juggle all of these things. I want to know where you land on this, because it's easy for me to have a certain perspective, also because I spend so much time on social, and I also analyze things in a different way as both a business owner, as a content coach, and as a fitness coach, somebody who understands nutrition, but also understands like the back end, the business component and the marketing component of social media. It's easier for me to be able to call this shit out and be like, this is ridiculous. And I'd love to hear from you if you feel like you've kind of fallen victim to this, but also know that if that's you, it's not your fault. And this episode should be your blueprint for how you can now take a step forward, whether that is unfollowing certain accounts or just, like I said, having that kind of like internal compass and that check-in with yourself when you start getting into a rabbit hole of consuming somebody's content and they seem like they're speaking in these extremes. Can you take a step back and remember, hey, Is this person doing this because this is like inherently true in how they live their life? Or is this person possibly saying this thing because they know it's going to get them more attention on social media? And for my coaches out there, please take this as your sign to worry less about the engagement and less about the likes and less about the comments, and focus more on sharing information that is truly going to get people the results that they desire, because that's the secret to you having a successful business. That's all I got for you guys. As always, share the show with a friend. Make sure you're subscribed. I can't emphasize this enough. I know a lot of people have always spoken about like leave a review. That does help the show, but the number of subscribers really does help the show too. So if you found this interesting, share this episode with somebody and encourage them to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button if you're over on Spotify. I think that's the exact language they use there, so that we can continue to share these messages with as many people as possible. The business owners who want to live their healthiest lives, the moms and literal superheroes who are out here doing the most, who want to live their healthiest lives, the women who are prioritizing their careers and still want to live their healthiest lives. You get to do both. You get to be both. It's just about recognizing that some days you might be pouring all the way into your work cup, and other days you might be pouring all the way into your family cup. But in between that, we owe it to ourselves to keep pouring back into the most important cup, us. From wherever you're listening from, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you guys next week for episode 200.